Never open the door after midnight, especially if the children outside have black eyes. They come in silence, wrapped in shadows, their footsteps muffled by the dead of night. They wear clothes that seem just a little too clean, a little too ordinary, jeans, t-shirts, maybe a hoodie pulled low over their brows. They look like children. That's the first thing anyone will tell you. They look like kids. Between the ages of 9 and 16, with pale skin, awkward limbs, and voices that carry a strange, unnatural calm. But it's not the clothes or the age or even the hour that chills the blood. It's the eyes. Deep, black, and utterly devoid of light, pools of darkness that seem to swallow the world around them. No whites. No irises. Just black. And they knock. Always after midnight. Always when the world is asleep. A soft, rhythmic rap at your door, your car window, your basement entrance. And when you answer, they speak in unison or take turns, their voices flat, rehearsed, like actors reading lines from a script written in a forgotten tongue. They ask for the same thing, over and over, "Can we come in?" Welcome to one of the most unsettling modern folklore phenomena of the 21st century, the black-eyed children. Not ghosts. Not demons. Not aliens, though some will swear they are. These are figures that straddle the line between myth and reality, emerging not from dusty grimoires or ancient scripture, but from quiet suburbs, rural highways, and late-night convenience stores, where ordinary people, truckers, nurses, single parents, college students, claim to have come face to face with something that defies logic, reason, and perhaps even the boundaries of our world. But how did we get here? When did these stories begin? And why, across continents and cultures, do they follow the same eerie pattern? To understand the black-eyed children, we must step back, not into the realm of science fiction, but into the annals of human fear. Fear of the dark. Fear of strangers. Fear of children who are not quite right. This is not a new terror. It is ancient. Deeply rooted in our collective unconscious. Think of the changeling myths of European folklore, where fairies steal human babies and leave behind hollow, sickly replacements that cry through the night and never grow. Think of the Japanese kodama, tree spirits that take childlike forms to lure travelers into the forest. Or the Slavic Leshii, forest demons that mimic the voices of lost children to draw hunters off the path and into the trees. Across cultures, the child who is not a child has been a symbol of the uncanny, the threshold between safety and danger, between this world and the next. But the black-eyed children are different. They do not appear in legends passed from generation to generation. They are not figures of oral tradition. They are modern. Their reported encounters begin in earnest in the 1990s, though some accounts, when closely examined, stretch back even further. The first widely publicized case comes from Texas in 1996, reported by a journalist named Brian Thompson. Thompson, then a radio talk show host, claimed that in the early hours of a cold November morning, two boys knocked on the door of his home outside Austin. They were neatly dressed, polite, but something about them felt off. Their skin was pale, almost grayish. Their voices were unnervingly synchronized. And their eyes, when the porch light caught them just right, were completely black. They asked to use the phone. "Our car broke down," one said. "Can we come in and call for help?" Thompson, a veteran of late-night radio and no stranger to bizarre callers, felt a cold knot form in his stomach. There was no car. No sounds of traffic. No headlights on the road. And yet, the boys insisted. "We just need to come in," they repeated. "We're cold." Thompson refused. And as he shut the door, he said he heard them whisper, not to him, but to each other, "He didn't let us in. We'll find someone who will." That account, shared first on his radio show and later published in a now-defunct paranormal magazine, sparked a wave of similar stories. Not immediately. At first, it was dismissed as urban legend, the kind of spooky campfire tale shared between friends over cheap beer. But then others came forward. A trucker in Kansas reported 2 children tapping on his cab window at 2:17 a.m. asking for a ride. A hotel clerk in New Mexico said 2 boys, twins, she thought, asked to borrow her phone, speaking without blinking. A mother in Ontario, awakened by knocking at her back door, saw 2 figures in the rain, their faces obscured by hoods, but their eyes were like voids. What makes these accounts so compelling is not just their consistency, but their banality. These are not people prone to fantasy. They are not occultists or conspiracy theorists. They are mechanics, teachers, nurses, people who live paycheck to paycheck and clock in at 9 a.m. They describe not visions or hallucinations, but physical encounters, knocking you can hear, breath you can see in the cold air, fingerprints on glass. And the fear they report is not the thrill of a ghost story. It is visceral. Primal. Many say they felt an overwhelming sense of dread, a pressure in their chest, a sudden inability to move. Some report their pets growling or cowering. Others say electronic devices flicker or die when the children are near. But perhaps the most disturbing pattern is the request. Again and again, they want to come inside. They ask to use the phone. To warm up. To rest. But never to leave once they're in. And those who have hesitated, who have opened the door just a crack, report an intense psychological pressure, an almost hypnotic need to comply, to let them cross the threshold. One man in Colorado described it as, a voice in my head that wasn't mine, telling me to open the door, just open it. He resisted. And when he slammed it shut, he said he heard laughter, high-pitched, childish, but utterly devoid of joy. Now, skeptics have offered explanations. Mass hysteria. Sleep paralysis. Misidentification of ordinary kids out late. Even hoaxes. And yes, some stories are likely fabrications. The internet breeds exaggeration. But when you strip away the noise, when you examine the core accounts, those with time stamps, witness names, corroborating details, a pattern emerges that is harder to dismiss. Take the case from 2007 in rural Arkansas. A man named James Holloway was driving home from a night shift at a warehouse when 2 boys appeared on the side of the road, waving him down. He stopped. They approached the window. Neat clothes. Pale faces. Hollow voices. Can we get in? Our dad is coming back for us. Holloway said no. The boy on the left leaned closer. You should let us in, he said. We're not like other children. At that moment, Holloway glanced into the boy's eyes. Completely black. And not just the pupils, his entire eye. Like marbles dipped in ink. Holloway drove off. Later, when he reviewed his dashcam footage, yes, he had one, he saw the 2 figures, but when the camera zoomed in on their faces, the image distorted. Static. As if the camera refused to focus on their eyes. Now consider this, from Texas to Maine, from England to Australia, the descriptions are nearly identical. The age range. The clothing. The monotone voices. The black eyes. The request to enter. The timing, always late, after midnight, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, according to ancient belief. It's as if these children operate by a script. A protocol. A pattern that transcends geography. But who, or what, are they? Some researchers believe they are interdimensional entities. Beings from a parallel reality, slipping through cracks in our world during moments of low energy, midnight, when human awareness is at its weakest. Others suggest they are psychic projections, manifestations of collective fear, born from our anxiety about child predators, school shootings, and the loss of innocence in the modern age. A few more radical theorists propose they are not children at all, but advanced forms of artificial intelligence, drones or avatars sent by unknown forces to test human boundaries, to probe our defenses, to see who will let them in. Then there are the religious interpretations. In certain Christian circles, the the black-eyed children are seen as demons in disguise. Biblically, demons cannot enter a home without invitation. They require permission. No man can enter into a strong man's house, says the Gospel of Mark, and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man. Could these entities be attempting exactly that? Using the innocent guise of children to bypass our spiritual and psychological guards? Some pastors have even begun preaching about them, warning congregations to never open the door to unknown knockers after midnight, to bless their homes, to keep salt or holy water by the entrance. But here's where it gets even stranger. In 2018, a team of parapsychologists at a private research institute in Virginia began collecting data on over 200 reported encounters with the black-eyed children. What they found was chilling. The incidents were not random. They clustered around certain locations, places with histories of trauma. Abandoned asylums. Former slave plantations. Sites of mass shootings. Even old Native American burial grounds. As if these children were drawn to pain. To sorrow. To places where the fabric of reality had already been torn. Even more unsettling. The researchers discovered that in nearly every case where someone did let the children in, even for a moment, there was a dramatic decline in mental health afterward. Nightmares. Paranoia. In 3 cases, suicide. One woman in Tennessee, who opened her door to 2 boys she thought were lost, reported that for weeks afterward, she could hear whispering in her attic. When she finally went up to investigate, she found nothing, except a circle of small, muddy footprints leading to the center of the room, and stopping. But perhaps the most baffling piece of evidence came from a security camera in a 24-hour pharmacy in Phoenix. On January 3, 2015, at 12:03 a.m., 2 figures entered the store. Hooded. Small. They approached the counter and asked the clerk if they could use the phone. The clerk, a man named Elias Reyes, later said their voices sounded like 2 people talking at once, but saying the same thing. He refused. They stood there for nearly a full minute, unblinking. Then they turned and left. The footage was reviewed. And when investigators enhanced the video, the faces were clear. But the eyes, when isolated in frame-by-frame analysis, showed no reflection. No light. Nothing. Just darkness. And when they ran the images through facial recognition software, the system failed to detect a face at all. It's as if the technology itself couldn't process what it was seeing. So where did they come from? When did this begin? And why now? Some point to the rise of the internet as the catalyst. That before the 1990s, these encounters happened in isolation, dismissed as nightmares or drunken hallucinations. But now, with social media and instant communication, the stories spread. Patterns emerge. A phenomenon becomes visible. But what if the internet didn't create the black-eyed children, but awakened them? Because here's something you won't hear on the evening news. In 2003, a declassified CIA document was quietly released under the Freedom of Information Act. Buried in a file on unconventional psychological operations, was a single, cryptic reference to juvenile non-human entities observed during nocturnal field tests in the Nevada desert. The document was heavily redacted. But one line remained readable: subjects exhibit no ocular reflection. Entry protocol dependent on subject compliance. The file was later withdrawn from public access. The agency claimed it was a misfiled document, a clerical error. But those who've seen it say it mentions something else. Something that has never been made public. A phrase scrawled in the margin of the document, in handwriting that doesn't match any known agent. It read, "They're learning how to knock." Narrator asterisk. We left our story in darkness, on that cold, breathless edge between myth and memory, where the black-eyed children stand at the threshold, their eyes like voids, their voices threaded with something not quite human. In the first chapter, we walked through the early accounts, the trembling testimonies from gas stations and suburban doorsteps, late-night phone calls that dissolved into dead silence. We traced the phenomenon from obscure internet forums in the 1990s to the chilling 1996 case of Brian, the radio show host whose encounter sparked a wildfire of fear and fascination. But now we step deeper into the shadows behind the shadows. Because if the black-eyed children are real, or even if they are a collective nightmare given form, their influence stretches far beyond a few isolated encounters in the dead of night. Let us begin where the evidence, thin as it is, grows thickest, the patterns. Over the past 3 decades, over 230 documented encounters with black-eyed children have been catalogued by paranormal researchers, independent investigators, and even archived in the margins of FBI behavioral files under the cryptic annotation *, unverified subjective reports, youth entities. The consistency across these accounts is unnerving. Children between the ages of 6 and 13. Always in groups of 2 or 3. Always appearing after midnight. Dressed in outdated or unusually formal clothing, long coats, stiff collars, clothes that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. And the eyes, always the eyes. Solid, fathomless black. No whites. No pupils. Just darkness. But the most chilling pattern? Their request. Always the same. Let us in. Not, can we use your phone? Not, can you help us find our way home? Just, let us in. And when refused, as they almost always are, they don't rage. They don't cry. They stand there. Silent. Unblinking. And then they vanish, not with a scream or a flash, but with a shift in the air, like a breath held too long, finally exhaled. Now, for years, skeptics dismissed these stories as urban legend, mass hysteria, or internet-born fiction. But the deeper we dig, the more we peel back the layers, the harder it becomes to explain them away as mere fantasy. Consider the 2012 case out of Lubbock, Texas. A retired schoolteacher, Margaret Holloway, reported 3 children appearing at her back door during a thunderstorm. She described them as too still, too quiet, and said their eyes looked like tar. She refused them entry, shut the door, and the next morning found her dog dead on the porch, not attacked, not poisoned, but frozen, despite the 80-degree Texas heat. A local veterinarian who examined the animal noted rigor mortis had set in within minutes of death, a physiological impossibility. The case was closed as undetermined, but Margaret never slept through the night again. Then, in 2018, a security camera in a rural Kentucky farmhouse captured 38 seconds of footage that has since been authenticated by digital forensics experts. 3 figures, small, hooded, moving with a strange, synchronized gait, approached the back door. The timestamp reads 2:17 a.m. One raises a pale hand and knocks. The door opens slightly, just enough to see the face of the homeowner, and then the screen dissolves into static. When the feed returns 12 seconds later, the figures are gone. But the door is wide open. And on the stoop, arranged in a perfect triangle, are 3 smooth river stones, each one black as pitch, unnaturally cold, and later found to contain trace isotopes of a mineral not native to North America, a compound typically found only in meteorite fragments. Coincidence? Perhaps. But when you begin to connect these cold stones to ancient burial rites, to pre-Christian Celtic traditions where black stones were placed at doorways to ward off spirits, or to protect the home from fetches, doppelgangers sent by the otherworld, the mind begins to wander down older, darker corridors. And that's when we uncover the real secret: the black-eyed children may not be new at all. Long before the internet, before radio hosts, before even the written word, there were stories, whispered around fires, scrawled on cave walls, hidden in the margins of medieval manuscripts, of children who came at night, not of this world. In the folklore of the Lakota people, there is a tale of the Wiyawakon, or spirit children, who appear during the winter solstice to test the hearts of the living. They ask for shelter. Those who refuse are spared, but marked. Those who let them in, they vanish, their bodies found days later, eyes turned as black as coal. In 17th century England, during the witch trials of East Anglia, several accused, cunning folk, confessed under torture to summoning, the Hollow Ones, childlike entities with no eyes, who spoke in voices not their own. One account from 1647 describes a Puritan minister, Reverend Elias Thorne, who claimed 3 such beings appeared in his study at 3 a.m., demanding entry to finish what was begun. He refused. The next day, every portrait in his home had been altered, the eyes of every figure, including his own, painted solid black. And then there is the most disturbing connection, the Black Shuck, the spectral black hound of East Anglian legend, said to appear before death. It is often accompanied, in the oldest tales, by a group of silent children, their faces pale, their eyes empty. They don't speak. They don't move. They simply watch. And when the hound howls, someone dies. Are these just stories? Or are they echoes, distorted by time, shaped by language, of something real? Something that has walked among us for centuries? Some researchers, like Dr. Lillian Voss of the Boston Institute of Anomalous Studies, argue that the black-eyed children are not physical beings at all, but psychic imprints, echoes of collective trauma. She points to historical events, the mass graves of children during the Black Death, the lost kids of the 19th century industrial cities, the unidentified victims of orphan trains, child soldiers, and forgotten accidents. The theory goes, when death is violent, sudden, and unacknowledged, the soul, or what we call the soul, may linger. And perhaps, in moments of psychic vulnerability, late at night, in isolation, during liminal hours, these imprints bleed through. But others, including field investigator Marcus Rain, who has personally interviewed over 60 witnesses, believe the black-eyed children are something far more intentional. They're not ghosts, Rain said in a 2021 interview. Ghosts repeat. They're stuck. These entities, they learn. They adapt. One woman in Missouri told me they started knocking on her car window after she moved, even though she'd never told anyone about her first encounter. How did they know where to find her? And that brings us to the most disturbing development of the past decade, the escalation. Up until 2015, nearly all encounters ended with the children vanishing after being denied entry. But since then, reports have increased, and the behavior has changed. In 2019, a gas station clerk in Nevada reported 2 black-eyed children entering the store. Surveillance footage shows them walking in, bypassing customers, and standing silently in front of the clerk for over 4 minutes. When he asked them to leave, one, just one, spoke, "We will return. The door will open." Then they walked out. The clerk quit the next day. In 2022, in rural Pennsylvania, a family reported their 8-year-old son sleepwalking to the front door at 3:03 a.m., opening it, and whispering, "They're here." When his parents rushed in, the boy collapsed. He woke up screaming, his eyes, for just a few seconds, completely black. Medical tests revealed nothing. But the boy hasn't spoken since. And then, the most chilling case of all, the diary of Emily Cho, a 24-year-old graduate student in folklore at the University of Oregon. In late 2023, Emily began documenting her own encounters with the black-eyed children, not as a witness, but as someone being targeted. Over 6 weeks, she wrote of seeing them in her peripheral vision, of hearing whispers in her headphones when no device was connected, of finding black handprints on her bedroom window, too small to be an adult's. Her final entry, dated November 17, 2023, reads, "They keep saying the same thing. We were never let in. But now, we are already inside. I don't know how much longer I can hold the line. I think one of them is wearing my face when I sleep." Emily Cho disappeared 3 days later. Her laptop was found open, the screen dark. But when forensic analysts recovered deleted files, they found a 37-second audio recording, just breathing. And beneath it, a single phrase, whispered over and over in a child's voice, "Let us in. Let us in. Let us in." Asterisk. Was Emily Cho taken? Did she cross over? Or did something worse happen? Did one of them take her place? We may never know. But what we do know is this: the phenomenon has evolved. The knocks are fewer. The appearance is more invasive. The line between observer and participant is thinning. And the message, once a simple, eerie request, now carries the weight of inevitability. So what are they? Are they interdimensional beings, slipping through the cracks of reality during the veil-thin hours of night? Are they the lost souls of children who died in darkness, seeking warmth they can no longer feel? Or are they something older, something primordial, that has always been with us, feeding on fear, on isolation, on the human need to believe we are never truly alone? There is one theory, the most controversial, the most terrifying, proposed by Dr. Elias Crane, a former NASA astrophysicist turned metaphysical researcher. In his unpublished manuscript, The Children of Midnight, Crane argues that the black-eyed children are not from our world, nor from any spiritual plane, but from our future. A future where humanity has collapsed, where the last children were forced to evolve in total darkness, their eyes adapting to absorb all light, their voices flattened by generations of silence. And they are traveling backward through time, not to change history, but to survive. To find shelter. To become part of our world before theirs fades away entirely. It sounds like science fiction. And perhaps it is. But as Crane wrote, asterisk, the most terrifying stories are the ones that begin as fiction, and end as fact. Asterisk. Today, the legend of the black-eyed children thrives, not just in the shadows, but in the light. Documentaries. Books. Podcasts. A feature film in development. But more importantly, the stories keep coming. Fresh. Unexplained. Unstoppable. From Anchorage to Atlanta, from Dublin to Delhi, the knocks continue. The eyes remain black. And perhaps that is the true legacy of the black-eyed children, not fear, but awareness. They remind us that the world is not as solid as we believe. That midnight is not just a time, but a threshold. That childhood innocence can wear a mask, and sometimes, the most harmless-looking figures carry the deepest mysteries. We may never know their origin. We may never understand their purpose. But their impact is undeniable. They've forced us to question the boundaries of reality, to confront the unknown, to listen, really listen, to the stories we used to dismiss as bedtime tales. And maybe, just maybe, that's what they wanted all along. Because in the end, the most powerful force in the universe isn't light. It's curiosity. And as long as we keep asking, keep searching, keep wondering, the door remains ajar. Even after midnight. Even when we think we're alone. Especially then. So the next time you hear a knock at your door, late at night, when the world is quiet, when the air feels heavy with something unspoken, ask yourself. Asterisk, who is out there? Asterisk. Asterisk, why now? Asterisk. And most importantly, asterisk, what happens if I say yes? Asterisk. If you've been captivated by this journey into the unknown, if you believe, as we do, that the greatest stories are waiting just beyond the edge of what we know, then don't walk away. Stay with us. Subscribe to this channel. Because the shadows are deep, the mysteries are many, and the next knock might be just one story away. We are the keepers of the unseen. The voices in the static. The light in the dark. And this is only the beginning. Subscribe. And never stop listening.